Why should Canadians believe your numbers add up?
The numbers do add up very much.
We got dark clouds on the horizon. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, I've been digging through Mark Carney's costed plan here. There's some not very good things in there. We'll take a look at that, his new carbon tariff for Canada that will only hurt Canadians. We got some new polling data. Let's jump into this. So as usual, we'll start with the polling data. This one coming from Mainstreet research. So last Mainstreet poll I showed you was 43% conservatives to 41% liberals. That poll was done over 3 days, over the past few days. This one here is the newest poll done in a single day. After both debates, we're seeing the conservatives now 41% and the liberals 38%. So it is switching here. We got 3-point lead. And typically conservatives are not represented as much in polls just in general. Based on how pollsters do it, they just can't reach rural ridings. So are we actually looking at the conservatives at 43 and the liberals at 36? It's hard to know. We are seeing the bloc now climbing back up to around their 6 to 8% range. They're 5% on this one. NDP is tanked badly. It seems Jagmeet is tanking the party to help the liberals. And the PPC 3, this has got to go. This needs to be attached right to the CPC. Guys, this is not helping us save Canada. That's huge. So based on this, it's showing 173 seats for the Liberals, 145 for the Conservatives. We got to keep pushing here. We've also got this posted here, visualized. What's interesting here is we've got 6% that is undecided. So that can really swing things one way or the other. Just jumping on Mainstreet Research website here, they have a brand new one they just dropped. This one isn't even on Twitter yet. And look at this. We've got 42% for the Conservatives, 38% for the Liberals. So this just keeps stretching out. So it looks like they're doing daily polls at this point. That undecided you're seeing now is 3% instead of 6%. We've got the Bloc moving up to 6%, the NDP up to 6%, PPC and the Greens dropping. Interesting. This is a favorable, unfavorable vote. This is for Mark Carney. So the more blue there is, the more people like him. And you can see now that there's more of this is not favoring Mark Carney than favoring. Got the same one from Pierre. You can see his is taking up a full half of the wedge here, 34 and 16 and 32 and 13. Moving ahead here, we got Elections Canada coming out, say first day of advanced polling, 2 million people have already voted. Now, are these going to be liberals that just want to get out and vote for their party? No, these are people who want change. People lining up at the door. I went and voted yesterday. I went on the second day. It wasn't busy at all. I was able to just go right in. I think a guy there recognized me, which is funny, but talking to some people there, they said the first day of voting, there was a lineup at 7:30 around the block and down the street, and they didn't open until 9. There was people lined up out the door for an hour and a half to get their vote in. Amazing. People are lining up to vote Conservative. They want change. Moving on, we got Pierre here getting an endorsement from the Pipeline Contractors Association of Canada. He says, if you want pipelines, you have to vote for change. Thank you to this association here for backing our plan to build a national energy corridor to connect Canada with East-West pipeline. So big endorsement here. Mark Carney's definitely not getting this one. Another endorsement here coming from former BC Liberal Premier Gordon Campbell. That's right, Liberal Premier Gordon Campbell. Mr. Poilievre believes in what Canadians believe in, a strong independent Canada that takes full advantage of its economic opportunities. You got Pleb posting this one here. So Toby Lutke, this is the owner of Shopify, one of Canada's largest companies. To be exact, it's worth $108 billion. So you can see him coming out here being very neutral, saying Mark Carney is a great candidate. Liberal Party's lucky to have him. But the platform released today, it's clear the party is still in control. It commits Canada to continued economic decline. Progress happens in zigs and zags. We tried this for 10 years. It's time to zag. So this is an endorsement for Pierre Poilievre in the most neutral way possible. We've seen a lot of these posts now, people saying what they voted for in the past and what they're voting now. This guy here, a loyal NDP voter, now switching to Conservative. And someone asked him here, what's the top issues that move the needle? He said affordability, standing up for Jewish community in Israel, feeling the opioid crisis, and combined mental health ramifications. My voting record, a whole lot of blue, yeah. We got Mark Nixon posting this one here. So this lady in the red, she lined up to see Mark Carney. She was not able to get into the rally. And not only that, the Liberal Party had her car towed, and then she complained about it and they said, yeah, nothing we can do about it.
I didn't tow anyone's car.
Well, the police told me to park in the parking lot, and then my car...
Okay, well, there's police right here. I've got a...
Just put it to the Liberals to do this kind of stuff. This is just like ridiculous. Tonight's Liberal rally is sponsored by Depends. That the towing company is owned by Brookfield Corp. Got this one coming out here. Very interesting. We've got a deal between China and Mexico. Mexican president going around Donald Trump.
Breaking news, Claudia Sheinbaum has just signed a historic agreement with Xi Jinping. And the world is in shock. Shein and Temu, the giants of Chinese e-commerce, are officially coming to Mexico. All of this happened just hours after former President Donald Trump imposed brutal 90% tariffs on products from both platforms. But Claudia Sheinbaum didn't sit idly by. She responded with a silent but explosive move. She signed a direct alliance with the Chinese government to establish full-scale operations of Shane and Temu on Mexican soil. And according to leaked documents this morning, the plan is already underway. There will be factories, logistics centers, and physical stores all over the country. This will not only boost the economy, it will create thousands of jobs, positioning Mexico as the new hub of global trade. But the most controversial part is here. Shinebound will allow U.S. citizens to cross the border and shop in Mexico without paying a single tax. Yes, you heard that right. While Trump threatens to close doors, Mexico is opening them, and Trump is left cornered. The empire trembles and Mexico moves forward like never before. Share this video and comment. Do you think this will forever change the relationship between Mexico, China, and the United States?
Wow, she played her own Trump card, didn't she? I don't know if Trump saw that one coming. So China just ships everything it used to ship to the US to Mexico? That's basically what this is. Yeah, this is China buying Mexico. Get ready to start paying astronomical prices for produce. So moving ahead here, we're going to take a look at Canada Strong, Mark Carney's fiscal costing plan. There's a lot of numbers in here, but if we scroll down, there's a few things to look at. First, this one, build out Canada's east-west energy grid. He wants to spend $500 million per year for the next few years on doing this. There's no mention of pipelines. He's not going to build any pipelines, despite all his lying about pipelines, and he's going to do it and this and that. He will not do it. It's not in here. There's not one bit. We do have boosting the CBC, though, for $150 million every single year. That's boosting. That's not funding. That's adding to the current funding. Canada Strong pass. Oh, God. So moving down here, what we're really looking at here today is this one, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So most people don't know what this is. They're implementing it in the EU right now. This is coming into play in 2027 in the UK. Mark Carney keeps talking about moving towards the EU and the UK. This is what he's talking about. This is called CBAM. So the CBAM program here is applying a carbon tariff on companies that aren't as green as Canadian companies. Who does this benefit? Perhaps one of the greenest companies in the world, one of the largest companies in the world, Brookfield Asset Management.
Foresight or fortune, depends on who you talk with. We're amongst friends, so there's some fortune with this, I guess. But what our organizing principle has been to build the backbone of the global economy. And so this is the backbone of the new global economy, or a new sort of rewired global economy.
So you can see here, first they're saying it'll bring in 100 million, then it'll bring in 400 million. And this is just going to go upwards and upwards. So let's take a look at what this means. Playing by new rules, how CBAM will change the world. When the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, is introduced in October 2023, importers of goods into the European Union will have to start reporting on the emissions embedded in their products. From 2026, they will have to start paying for them. So all of these articles are in regards to the EU, because they've already brought this in. We take a look here, it says, importers will only have to reporting, and then importers start to face financial obligations. EU aims to extend the CBAM to all sectors. So right now it's only going to a few sectors. As you can see here, initial sectors: electricity, hydrogen, cement, fertilizers, aluminum, iron, and steel. What we can take from this is most of these things in Canada will go up in price because of this. And then it goes on to oil refining, upstream fuel combustion, all metals, acids, organic chemicals, glass and ceramics, pulp, paper, aviation, maritime, lime. Goes on to say, so the CBAM will reach full effect by 2034 in all initial sectors. It goes on to show graphs like this. So you have countries that have high carbon attached to their products. They're going to get hit the most. They'll have to pay a tariff selling their stuff in Canada. But this just means higher prices for Canadians. Because what will they do? They'll just take those low cost products and increase the price. And then we'll end up having to pay for that. And how do you think this is going to work out, since America doesn't have carbon tax? Mark Carney's going to put a tariff on Donald Trump's products coming from America into Canada. This is going to be a mess.
Do I think we're going to get to net zero? Yes. Do I think we're going to get there in a pathway that's consistent with 1.5 degrees?
Right.
That's really tough. But would I, given the broad direction of travel, given the scale of investment, capital deployment, I think it's a pretty straightforward calculation.
So moving over to this article examining the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, it says it aims to achieve a 55% decrease in overall greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Goes on to say here, a study showing that developing economies, particularly countries in Africa and Persian Gulf Arab states, could face considerable tariffs due to high carbon emissions intensities linked to their products. So what's going to happen here is these companies in, say, pick a country in Africa, Africa, Nigeria, say it makes a certain product, steel or some sort of metal, and they do it really cheap. We could say even like cobalt for electric vehicles. That gets sent to the EU, or it gets sent to Canada in this case, because Mark Carney wants to bring this in Canada. Well, since they're not using green technologies to do it, that product would be tariffed and then potentially goes up by 30%, 50%, 100%, who knows? That just dramatically increases the output cost of the product in Canada. The government collects the money, and what do they do with that money? They send it to projects like this Green Climate Fund Replenishment Grant, $190 million in Uganda, where this money can't be audited. It just disappears into the void, goes to the central bank. As I've shown many times here, Mark Carney directly connected to the World Bank through GFANZ, Glasgow Finance, Alliance for Net Zero. This is his company, which is being scrutinized right now by the American government. And as that Oxfam report showed, $41 billion lost by the World Bank. If these guys are collecting money and then sending it overseas or sending it to the World Bank, this money can't be audited. Surely this smells like a big money laundering scheme. I mean, look at this. This one's $190 million for Green Climate Fund. This one here, Green Climate Fund, $22 million, $234 million, $180 million, $36 million. We can see a list of companies here. It says imports for European Union for CBAM sectors in 2022 in the billions. So China at the top here. China is going to get dinged on this. All these countries are going to get dinged on this. All of these products are going to be more expensive. The government collects the money and Canadians have to pay the price. EU CBAM is proposed as a looking forward initiative instrument aimed at reducing carbon leakage and securing a level playing field, but has a potential to reshape the way countries conduct international trade. But if we take a look at a graph like this, it says GDP increases in major development countries while decreases in most developing countries due to carbon border adjustment mechanism. What we're looking at here is this green dot, this circle. See, it's welfare. We've got GDP. You just look at those two things. The blue is the CO2 emissions. If we look at developed countries, they're increasing. All the developing countries are decreasing. This brings prosperity to the developed countries, big businesses that already have a stranglehold on this green climate net zero world, like Brookfield Asset Management, and it hurts all of these developing countries.
Funding, which is now increasingly available, or capital, which is now increasingly available, is the second step, and policy is the first.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you may be seeing a path back to the public sector?
Well, I do spend some time advising on what, again, pro bono, but advising on the types of policies that are going to have maximum impacts for investors. So I'll give you an example, which is one of the issues. It's not the biggest issue. It's like 2% of global emissions. You wouldn't know it from the headlines, but 2% of global emissions is for air travel, emissions from air travel. Now, so the question is, are we going to have green, sustainable aviation fuel? What's happened in the UK, the EU, is they've said to major airlines, look, if you're flying in and out of Heathrow or wherever, you have to have 10% of your load has to be sustainable aviation fuel by, I think it's 2030. Consequence of that policy has been to convert some entrepreneurs in Texas, in this case, a company called Infineon, to become economic. Because all of a sudden, American Airlines, British Airways need to buy that fuel. They'll pay a green premium. You've got an offtake, that's high credit quality. And so in that case, we Brookfield put $1 billion to work there, and it's a fantastic opportunity. The point being, without the policy, the policy has to drive it and drive things down. So yeah, I'm dodging your question.
I know, I know you're dodging.
And look at the time.
I look at the time too.
If we look at this world map of countries with carbon taxes, we got Canada is in the middle here. You can see some serious carbon taxes going on here in Norway and Sweden and France. So essentially, these countries are to become the trading partners of Canada, and all the gray ones will end up having either decreased trade or increased costs. There's multiple reports coming out like this one saying Italy, France, and Slovakia demand changes to EU carbon border levy documents show it's hurting these countries. EU enjoys the largest GDP increase at 0.1% due to CBAM. In contrast, developing countries like India, Russia, Ukraine, South Africa experience GDP decline due to CBAM. On the other hand, the EU has a major beneficiary enjoying a welfare increase of 2.6 billion, counting for 73% of total welfare gains due to CBAM. So it's very bizarre that Mark Carney wants to bring in this program, increase costs on many things for Canadians, take that extra tax money, but then claim he's all for foreign aid to just send more of this money out the door to projects like these that can't be audited. While the entire time we've got companies like Brookfield Asset Management, which I'm sure he's got millions of dollars of stocks in, benefits handsomely because it's been set up for a long time to be the world leader in net zero. From Infinium Green Jet Fuel, all these different packaging companies I showed the other day, Modulaire Group, Enercare Heat Pumps, Trane, Schneider, the list goes on and on. Brookfield is set up to benefit from this and have a big strategic advantage over other companies, and this is all being put in by Mark Carney right here in his costed plan. And you can bet that this 400 million will be jumping to $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion, continually jacking up the costs for Canadians. This article here talking about CBAM adjustment has serious flaws. In practice, CBAM has come to mean a tax on imported goods that is designed to reflect the carbon contents of those goods. To politicians who want to prioritize protecting local industries and raising funds, CBAM, just like any other import tariff, is very appealing. This is a great way to protect a green eco net zero company like Brookfield Asset Management. Goes on to say here, aluminum, iron, steel, fertilizer, cement, electricity, and hydrogen are the initial categories, but as I showed you before, these will be expanding. Europe may attract a lot of low carbon fertilizer and aluminum, but as long as there's enough demand for high carbon fertilizer and aluminum elsewhere, it won't really change global emissions, commodity prices, or help local industries as much as expected. This won't affect the climate emissions at all. It's a waste. Once again, this is just a business decision to corner a market. The CBAM will raise costs of imported goods, but the EU decided against any tax refund for exported goods. This map here showing China as the largest trading partner to 124 countries, and countries America is the largest trading partner with 56. Both of these countries do not have carbon taxes. So how is Donald Trump going to respond when Mark Carney puts carbon import tariff on everything coming from America? Meanwhile, we've got this buffoon Mark Carney saying stuff like this: the government has been spending too much and investing too little.
Because the government has been spending too much and Canada has been investing too little. Let me draw that out. Day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year for years. That's more than twice the rate of growth of our economy.
This guy talks in empty platitudes that have no substance whatsoever. And look how many women are standing behind him here. The only man I see here is Francois Philippe Champagne. He's really playing to his base because the men are not voting for Mark Carney. He's going to take your money and invest it in Brookfield. Are you not blind? Come on, people. He's saying it to your face. With Mark Carney's outrageous spending, we're seeing this comparison here. Justin Trudeau, 131 billion. Mark Carney, 225 billion. Because that's what we need. More spending. Here we have Mark Carney 2 months ago saying he'll balance the budget. Yesterday, him saying he's going to spend an extra 130 billion, but he's going to shrink the deficit. Trust me, bro.
So as a result, we will balance the operational budget within 3 years.
In your platform, your cost of platform you released today, you outline almost $130 billion in new spending, but a shrinking deficit over the next 4 years. How and why should Canadians believe your numbers add up?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. The numbers do add up very much.
They add up because he says they add up. I think a hungry dog at a barbecue is more trustworthy than Mark Carney. Let's just vote conservative. I did. It's called the reverse mortgage and the country is given to China. He's a rocket scientist, so just trust him. Also, I think he invented money and the pyramids. So I mentioned this in the previous video, but we've got Pierre here coming out with this announcement from Bloomberg.
Mr. Carney has even gone beyond Justin Trudeau, abandoning even the weak fiscal guideposts. And Bloomberg is now predicting worsening fiscal position if the Liberals are reelected to a fourth term. One Carney-friendly economist on Twitter said that this Liberal platform is a, quote, spendorama with even bigger deficits than Freeland's that just go on forever.
Carney will bankrupt this country and he'll enrich Brookfield Asset Management. We got this one here. Mark Carney Liberals pledge to increase foreign aid as part of the $225 billion new debt spending. I guess there aren't enough Canadians eating at food banks yet. More gender-sensitive farming in the Congo, here we come. So we can see expand FinDev's lending capacity, support private sector, low-income emerging economies, investing infrastructure to reduce emissions, address global famine and food insecurity. Yeah, don't want to invest in that in home. Just do it in Africa where it can't be audited, right? Protect Canada's proud tradition of supporting the poorest and most vulnerable in times of crisis by maintaining international humanitarian aid, but not taking care of our own people once again. Send that money where it can't be audited. Assert Canada's leadership in supporting women and girls by protecting funding for reproductive health care and rights, more funding for LGBTQI plus international assistance, more programs that can't be audited. At this point, I'm fine with Canada being nuked. Foreign aid is code for money laundering. Yeah, well, I mean, if it can't be proven that that stuff is going to where it is, then we just have to assume that it's being stolen because people are corrupt. What happened to Canada first? Yeah, Canada last. That's Mark Carney's program here. Canada last, foreign donations first. Every single day here, we're getting another breadcrumb from Mark Carney that leads back to none other than Brookfield Asset Management. It is painfully obvious that his entire goal as Prime Minister is to enrich that company and make them filthy rich. How many stocks does Mark Carney own in Brookfield Asset Management?